Hello, welcome to day one of FYB data analysis training. This class will be about introduction to data analysis. These are the class outline. These are the things that I'll be addressing in today's class. And also, in addition to this, I will also be showing you the interface of three data analysis tools, which are Microsoft Excel, SPSS, and GraphPad Prism, so that you'll be familiar with the interface. For this class, you definitely need your writing materials. Please go and get a note for this training. Get a notebook. Be really serious with it. And then also you need to have installed those three applications on your system, or maybe one or two of them, depending on anyone you want to learn among the three applications, or anyone you feel your department uses for final year project analysis. These are the class objectives, and then I'll just jump right into class. If we're talking about data analysis, then we actually need to start from the keywords, right, which is data and analysis. So now let's talk about data. What is data? Data is the plural word of the word datum, and datum means a single piece of information. So that if I ask one of you in this class that, okay, what is your name, and you tell me your name, that is like a single piece of information. But if I get the name of everybody in this class, then that's like data. I've gotten data pertaining to name of everyone in the class, right? Data refers to collected observations, measurements, facts, records, or description. So if someone is working in the lab, probably you are working with lab rats, and then they are making observations. You are checking their temperature, you are checking how they move, or their reaction to administration of a particular drug. So those observations that you are making and you are recording, that is definitely data. Data can be measurements. So if you gather a number of people and you measure their temperature, their heart rate, their blood pressure, that is definitely data too. So data can be facts. So if I ask you for the name of your school, and then you say, oh, OAU, UI, and the likes, that is facts. Like, that's just the truth, and that's data. If I ask for the location of your school, maybe, okay, OAU is situated in Ile-Ife, UI is in Ibadan, that is just facts, and that is data also. Data can also be records. Yes, every school should ideally have the record of all their students, like matric number, department, faculty, names, and the likes. So that is data. It can also be description. So I can look at someone and say, oh, this person is tall, this person is short, this person is light in complexion, this person is dark in complexion. So all of these actually refers to data. Now, when you hear the word data, I know most of the time your mind might be restricted to spreadsheets, maybe just numbers and text that you can have in an Excel workbook, or numbers and text that are entered in maybe a physical form, a questionnaire, a paper questionnaire, or maybe even a form, a Google form, just like the one you filled for the registration of this training. But you also have to know that data is not restricted to just number and text alone. Data can also refer to multimedia items like audios, video, images, or documents. So in this training, we'll actually be focused on quantitative analysis, but we also have qualitative analysis, and this actually deals more with this data that might be in form of multimedia items. For example, for qualitative analysis, you can actually interview some people and then record the conversation, transcribe it, and then try to analyze that in some kind of ways. Obviously, for those type of analysis, you won't be using like the tools like Excel or SPSS. Maybe you can use SPSS, but there are some special tools that are dedicated to qualitative analysis, right? But the important thing I want you to know is data is not restricted to numbers and text alone. We can have data in form of audio, in form of video, in form of images, or even in form of a document. What is data analysis? Data analysis is the process of collecting or retrieving data, cleaning, transforming, modeling, and visualizing data to identify trends and discover useful information, then make conclusions, and then support decision making. Okay, so I have here that data analysis has to do with collecting or retrieving data. So that is the first step in your data analysis process. Before you can even analyze data, right, you have to have your data. And for having this data, is either you are collecting it yourself, you are making a questionnaire, you are going into the lab to carry out an experiment, or you are retrieving the data. That is actually using a data that has been previously collected, maybe by an organization, by another researcher. No, now those type of data refers to as secondary data. Secondary data. So the first thing is you have to have your data before you can analyze the data. So that's the collecting or retrieving of data step. And now the next step is you need to actually clean your data, and you also need to transform, the data. Data cleaning has to do with making sure the data is in the right form, that it is just clean as the name implies. So most times when we collect data, they are not clean. There are a lot of other things that we don't need, that we need to remove from that data. Sometimes extra spaces, sometimes outliers, sometimes missing values. So you need to deal with all those things before you go into your data analysis. Now we also have transforming of data. So when you collect data, you collect certain variables, and then from those variables you can actually get other variables. So that's like the transforming of data. Then you also need to model your data. You need to carry out a number of calculations, summarize the data, because for example, if you collected a data of 1000 rows, you're not going to present it that way. So you have to model it in a way that it is in a concise form that can be shared by doing some calculations, maybe finding mean, median, frequency, and stuff like that. Now after doing that, then you also need to actually visualize your data. So definitely your data can be in tabular form, but visualizing your data also helps. It makes people to actually notice the trends and notice what you're trying to show better. So when you do all of this, you'll be able to identify trends and also discover useful information that can be used in decision making. And then when you're done with your research, the data analysis process, you can then make a conclusion based on your objectives, and then you can also make a recommendation, because those are actually the important thing. After getting data and analyzing it, what are you able to get from that data? What is like the conclusion of your research? What is your research telling us? What is it adding to the body of knowledge that already exists? Okay, so now data analysis is useful and applicable in various fields such as the health sector, sciences, social sciences, finance. Like data analysis is really useful in every field, literally. Let's talk about types of data. So when we are talking about quantitative analysis, we have two main type of data. That is the quantitative or numeric data, and we also have the qualitative or categorical data. So the names are a bit explanatory, and for quantitative data, this refers to numeric data, and this data can actually be quantified. They are quantifiable, they can be measured, or they can be counted. And then example, we have height, weight, age, blood pressure, temperature. You can see that all of these they're actually numbers, and they are quantifiable, they can be measured. So now quantitative data itself can be divided into discrete data and then continuous data. Talking about qualitative or categorical data, as the name implies, this refers to non-numerical data. So this data usually refers to different categories, really, and they are kind of used to describe something. For example, we have age group. Age group refers to people that are grouped into different categories. Then we have color. Color is used for description. Okay, and we have stuff like marital status, which is kind of also describing someone's marital status, really. Categorical or qualitative data can be divided into ordinal and nominal data. So this is just a chart. This is a chart. This is an image that is showing the different type of data, then the different subtypes, and then different examples that fall into the different subtypes. So quantitative data, we have the discrete and the continuous, and then for qualitative data we have ordinal and nominal data. For discrete data, this refers to numerical data, quite alright, but it refers to data that can be counted and they can only take whole numbers. No, looking at population. So for discrete data, they are actually their whole numbers, and then they can be counted. They are definitely numerical data. But let's look at frequency of people in a class now. The number of people in a class. We can't say we have like 10.5 people in a class. That doesn't make sense. Oh, for continuous data, this also refers to numerical data, but then it can take any value within a range. It can take decimal values, literally. Let's look at height, weight. All these can take decimal. They can be decimal numbers. So that is continuous data. For categorical data, it can be divided into ordinal or nominal data. Why both actually refers to category. Ordinal data actually shows order. For example, when we have age group, someone in age group 20 to 30 is definitely higher in rank than someone in age group 0 to 10. So ordinal categorical data will show order, while nominal will not show order. For example, we have blood type. We really can't say maybe a particular blood type is greater than another blood type, or the genotype is greater than another genotype. Okay. Now, another important thing to note is scale of measurement. So this is a bit similar to types of data, but they are also a bit different. So when you are measuring your variable for research, the variables you need for your research, that is the data you will be getting. It can be measured in different scales. We have the nominal scale, we have the ordinal scale, we have the interval scale, and we also have the ratio scale. So for the nominal and ordinal scale, it really retains the same meaning as that I've explained under types of data. But now we have interval and ratio scale. These two refers to numerical data, yes, and then for interval scale is a data on a scale with equal intervals without a true zero. While for ratio is data with equal interval, but then it has a true zero. I'm going to be using temperature to explain interval scale and what we mean by it not having a true zero. For example, when it comes to temperature, we can have 0 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees Celsius, and so on and so forth. But when we have 0 degrees Celsius, that technically really doesn't mean zero, in the sense that maybe there's no temperature. So that 0 doesn't really mean nothing. But if you're looking at ratio data, for example, let's look at exam score. If someone scores 0 in an examination, that means this person scores nothing. So I hope these two examples actually showed us the difference between interval and ratio data. And now, what is the importance of this scale of measurement of your variable? Is actually important when you are determining the best inferential statistics or the best statistical test to carry out on your data. Each statistical test have different criteria that must be met before you can use them to test maybe your hypothesis and things like that. So if you need to know the scale of measurement of your data, that's part of what the information you need to have gathered before you can say, I want to use this particular statistical test. Why for types of data? Type of data is more important when you are trying to determine the best analysis to do for your data. So now let's talk about data sources. I've kind of talked about this briefly before. So primary data refers to data that is collected by the researcher. So you go into your lab, you are carrying out experiments, and you are taking note of your data, you are recording your data. That is primary data. You designed a questionnaire and you shared it to some people to fill. That is primary data. But for secondary data, you are using data that has been gathered before, maybe by another researcher or by an organization like WHO. For example, if you are working on malaria and then you go to WHO website to get data on malaria occurrence between 1919 to 2010, then you are using secondary data because you are not the one that actually collected that data. The data analysis process, really, I've also talked about this before, and this includes data collection, data cleaning, data transformation, then descriptive analysis, data visualization. Even though data visualization is actually under descriptive analysis. So then we have the statistical analysis. So for descriptive analysis, you want to do things like frequency and percentage, median, mode, standard deviation, and all those things. While for data visualization, you want to visualize what you have. Maybe after getting frequency and percentages for your age group, you actually want to show it in a pie chart or a bar chart. So then we have the statistical analysis. This includes your tests like t-test, like ANOVA, like chi-square. So you actually want to see, is there a significant difference between maybe knowledge that you've measured and across different age group, across different genders. Then you need to carry out statistical analysis. After you've done all these, then you need to interpret your results. After which we actually discuss the result also. So we have different data analysis tools. We have Excel, SPSS, GraphPad Prism, eViews, R language. There's Python. There's Microsoft Power BI. There's eViews. Yeah, is there. So really, there are plenty data analysis tools. I just mentioned a few here. You can actually read up on the other ones. For this training, we'll be working with Microsoft Excel, SPSS, and then GraphPad Prism. So now the next thing now is I want to show you the interface of these different applications that we'll be using for this training. So you can just launch maybe Excel or SPSS or GraphPad Prism when I start showing you all those things like on your system so that you can follow through. So now I am going to launch my Excel application. For me, I have it here, but you can just click on this start button and then click on all application and then look for Excel. And look for Excel. So I'm just going to click on it to launch it now. And then I'm going to select blank workbook. So I have all of these here because I've been using Excel before. So I'm going to click on blank workbook. I want to create a blank Excel workbook. An Excel file is called workbook. Yes, like a book. I'm just going to click on this to create a blank workbook. So now this is how an Excel file looks like. This is an Excel file looks like. Good. So assuming you already created this and you want to create another Excel file. So this particular part of the class I've started, I'm now showing you the Excel interface. So you already open an Excel file and you want to open another one. You can go to file, then click on new and just click on blank workbook again, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control N and it's going to open another blank workbook. I'm just going to close that. So you already opened your file. What if you want to save it? Simply go to file and then click on save. It's going to move it to save as. That's fine. And then enter the file name. I'm going to call this FYB data analysis training. And then you need to navigate to where you want it to be saved. I'm going to click on browse now. And then I'm going to look for folder where I want it to be saved. So I'm looking for the folder now. And I'm just going to save it here. So I've saved this file. Okay, so now I said an Excel document or an Excel file is called a workbook. Now inside a workbook, we have different sheets that is called worksheets, just as we can have several pages in a book. So now this is sheet 1 and that's one sheet. If you want to create another sheet, you simply need to click on this plus this one here and then you've created another sheet. And then you can even create another sheet. I think you can create up to 256 sheets. I'm not sure about that. Okay, so now for each sheet, it has a default name, which will be like sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and the likes. So if you want, you can rename it. So for me to rename it now, you simply need to double click on this. And then I'm going to just call this one, maybe page 1. You can call it anything. So simply need to double click it and then type what you want, and then you've been able to rename the sheet. When you have a sheet, you can delete it, but you have to know that if you delete it, that is gone. You are not going to be able to retrieve it again by pressing Ctrl Z. Deleting a sheet is irreversible. Okay, so if I want to delete this sheet now, I only need to right click and then click on delete, and then it's gone. Ideally, it's meant to tell me that, do I want to really delete this sheet? I'm coming. I'll just type something here. Let's see if it's going to ask me that now. Right click, then click delete. Now, because I have a data here, it's asking me, do you really want to delete this sheet? So if you click on delete, it is gone. So if you really want to delete your sheet, you have to think about it very well. Okay, that's that. So we can have different sheets. And then now, Excel, the way Excel is structured, it is structured in rows and columns. So you have rows and then you have columns. You have rows and you have columns. Excel is structured in rows and columns. For your rows are the horizontal ones. You can see these ones, these are your rows. While the columns are the vertical ones. These ones, these are the columns. Each column has a name which is in form of alphabet, like column A, column B, column C, column D. And then we have up to column Z, and then we have A, B, A, C, like. So we have several columns. Okay, so for the rows, these ones are structured in numbers. So we have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, and so on. Okay, so now we've talked about rows and columns. You can see several boxes on this spreadsheet. Each box is called a cell. Each box is called a cell, and a cell is an intersection of a row and a column. And each cell also have their own name. So now this cell here, this is a cell, and then this cell is at the intersection of column A and column 1. Therefore, the name of this cell is what? Cell A1. When you click into this place, you will see A1 is displayed here. This particular box is called the name box. If I click into another cell, the name will also be displayed here. That is what? Cell C4, because it is at the intersection of column C and column 4. So this is cell C4 now, and it is at the intersection of column C and column 4. This is column C, and then this is row 4. Sorry, column C and row 4. Okay, I hope we've gotten that. Rows, column, then we have cells. What's the next thing? Okay. So we have different tabs in Excel. We have the file tab, the home tab, insert, draw, and all of that. We won't be needing all of these for our training. For each tab now, we have different group. For the home tab, we have the clipboard group, we have the font group, we have the alignment group, we have the number group, we have the style group, we have the cell group, we have editing, and then we have all those groups. Okay, also in each group now we have different options, I'm going to call them options. You have different options in each group. For example, in the clipboard group, we have this is cut. Then we have this is paste. We have format painter. Under the font group, we have this bold, italics, underline. You have these font type. We have font size. Okay, so we'll be working a lot with formulas in Excel. We'll be working a lot with formulas, and then so if I click on the formula tab now, then you can see we have insert function here. We might not be using this particular option so much. We have a lot of formulas in Excel, so the ones that are very useful to us, those are the ones that I'll be teaching in this course. So to write a formula in Excel, you need to, this particular box that is moving around, you need to place your cursor on a cell, then you need to type equals to, and then write your formula. Maybe you want to use a function, or you want to just write the formula on your own. Function versus formula. Let me quickly just try to explain that. For example, if I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if I have these guys listed here, if I want to find the sum of these, I can write a formula to get it, or I can use a function. So to use a formula, as I said, when you want to write a formula in Excel, or you want to even use a function, you have to start with equals to. And I'm just going to go in here and type equals to. Then I'm going to just click on this, and then it's giving us the name. It's giving us the cell name or the cell address, which is G11. Then type plus, and then put the another one, plus, and then put another one, plus, and then select the other ones. So after then plus and select everything. This is you trying to write a formula like manually by yourself. Okay, so this is the sum of all of this is 21. Now if I want to use a function, Excel have a function that is called the sum function that can actually easily help with carrying out addition. So to use a function now, still I have to start with equals to. So that will be equals to. Now I'm going to type the name of the function, which is sum. You can already see it listed out here. So you can click on this, double click on this, and then it's going to add this open bracket. But you can actually add it on your own too. And also, when you've typed your function, if it's already highlighted with this blue thing, if you press tab, it will also help you to add the open bracket. Then after this, the next thing you need to do is you need to highlight all of these numbers, then close the bracket, and then enter. Then we have the same answer. So this is us doing a basic calculation in Excel. I think this is good for introduction to Excel interface. And then now we'll move to another application, which is SPSS. Okay, for SPSS also, you need to launch the application. So I'm going to click on the start button, and then click on all applications. I'll look for SPSS. Where are you? I think it's IBM SPSS. So let's go to I. So this is IBM SPSS. I'm not going to click on this IBM SPSS statistics 26. It all might be 27, 28. The 26 refers to the version. So this is version 26. I'm going to click on this to launch it. It might take a while. I don't know. So it didn't take too much time. Okay, so I have this window, and all of these are what the jobs I worked on recently. So I'm just going to close it, and then we have this interface. So SPSS has okay. So what you're looking at is the data. Is it the data window? What you're looking at is the data view, and then this is the variable view. Data view, variable view. But this particular window, like the two together, I think they are called the inputs window, because we also have the output window. We also have the graph. Is it graph window or chart window? So don't be confused. But you have, so in SPSS you have data view, you have variable view, we have the output window, which is like another window itself. You see it very soon. We have the chart window, which you also see when we start creating charts. Okay, so this is the data view now. This is actually where you enter your data. This is where you enter your data. So let me do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thing here also. Good. So we've entered our data here, and you can see it is already is giving it a name called variable 1. So in Excel, you see you have different columns, while in SPSS you have different variables. So it's just different names, really the same meaning. And we also have rows here. Now these rows is in SPSS, they are referred to as cases. So case 1, case 2, case 3. Good. So now that's the data view, and this is where we enter our data. So going to the variable view now. Going to the variable view, you can see we have one variable, which is one for the data that I entered, and it is kind of created automatically. So, but when it's time, we'll learn how to create our own variable and then define it. So let's go back to data view, And we also have file here. So this file is presently untitled. If you want to save it, you definitely need to click on file, then go to save, and then you have to navigate to where you want to save it, and then click on give it a befitting name, then click on save. That will save it. We have the edit. We won't be doing much on this. The tabs we'll be using in SPSS, we'll be using the analyze tab, because this is where we'll do lots of analysis. We'll be using the transform tab, because this is where we are going to clean our data. Then we'll be using the graph, because this is where we are going to actually be making our graphs. So looking for this now, let's try to do the same thing that we did in Excel. So I want to get the we did sum, right? I want to get the sum of these. So I'm going to go to analyze, then descriptive. Now click on frequency, but I don't really need frequency though. So I'm going to uncheck the display frequency table. Then we are going to bring this variable into this box. So in SPSS, we'll be working with different box, different dialog box like this. So you need to click your variable and put it inside this variable box. Then I'll click on statistics, and then I want sum. So I'm just going to check sum alone, because I want just sum. I'm going to click on continue, then okay. And then this is what I was saying. This is now the output. This is the output window. This is another window entirely. It's different from this. So this is the output window, and you can see our result here. And this is what 21. Okay, really, that's it with SPSS also. Then I'm just going to show us around GraphPad Prism now. Okay, so for GraphPad Prism, we are also going to launch it, and GraphPad Prism, So this is it, GraphPad Prism 8. Your own can be maybe 9, 10. It's also just talking about the version. So, and one thing about GraphPad Prism is I really did not sit down to learn this particular tool. So when I was doing my final year project, I was analyzing it with Excel all this while. Then later on, my supervisor told me to use GraphPad Prism. So I really didn't take a course to learn it. I just jumped into the application, and I know that whatever I need to do, I'm going to do it. So I might just watch 1 or 2 YouTube videos, but I didn't exactly take a comprehensive course to learn it. Okay, so this window also comes up, and on it you have an option of starting with a sample data. So you can actually explore this. So I clicked XY now, start with sample data to follow a tutorial, and then select a tutorial data set. Let's say we want to choose, which one do I want to choose? Let's say it's correlation now. So I've chosen XY, then I want to start with a sample data set like a tutorial. So if I know I want to do correlation now, then you know that you have to actually go with XY, and then correlation, it might be simple linear regression. Let's choose correlation, then create. So you can see now that I'm just going to minimize those ones. That if you are working with a correlation, you want to do a correlation, maybe you've measured 2 variables in the lab, and then you want to see if there's a correlation between them. You want to know the correlation coefficient and all of that. The data has to be in this format, this XY format. And now you can have different, you have just one X, and you can have different group for your Y. So then, so that's that anyways. Also you can, after you've done that, so you can have several data sets under the same file in GraphPad Prism. So we already have one data set. I can click here to select new data table. That's like the data set. And for this one, probably let's say I want to choose column. I'm also going to start with sample data, and then I'm just going to maybe choose t-test, unpaired t-test. So then create. So if you want to carry out a t-test, unpaired t-test, then your data has to be in this format. So as I said, when you are using GraphPad Prism, you really need to know what you want to do. If you know what you want to do, when you explore the application, you have an idea of the way you are meant to structure your data, because structuring your data in the right form is very, very important for for GraphPad Prism actually. So let's select group, and then we're also going to say start with sample data to follow a tutorial. And for this one, let's say we want to do two-way ANOVA. Okay, great. So if you need to run a two-way ANOVA, your data has to be in this format, structured in this format for GraphPad Prism. If we do another one, okay, let's say part of a O. This is just a pie chart. So same thing. So if you want to make a pie chart with GraphPad Prism, then your data has to be in this form. So for GraphPad Prism, you have the data tables. Okay, you can click on one, or you can click on this like data table itself to show you all the data tables that you want. And then you also have this info. You have the results. If we run any analysis now, did I run an analysis? So let's say this one now. Let's do the correlation. To run an analysis, you have to go to analyze, and then you need to choose the type of analysis that you want. I want correlation. I'm just going to click on correlation, then okay, and then choose some options here. I'll just click okay, and then immediately you can see that we are in like another place now, and we are under the results. I don't know, we'll call it result group now. Under results, you now have a file or a page under results. Okay, so that's the result. And we also have graph. So for the graph, when we click on graph now, you can see different graphs here. Though we are not the one that actually created the graph. The graphs we are there because we are working with a sample data. So if you click on this, you can see the correlation. For the t-test, you can choose different graphs. For the two-way ANOVA also, you can choose different ones that you want. And then for the student grade, it's just a pie chart, and then you can see. So this is how GraphPad Prism actually looks. You have to know the way to structure your data, and to do that, you can just come into the application to explore it. We are going to go more deep into that later. Okay, so this is the end of day one. This is the end of day one's class. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you learned something new. Also, if you do, I would like you to actually talk about it. You can share what you learned online, yes, with hashtag FYB data analysis training. You can tag me on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Yeah, you can post it on your WhatsApp status. Okay, see you tomorrow.